In this season, our third season, we'll be looking at one of China's very recent feats of engineering expertise, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. The story focuses on how the chief engineer saw his project not simply in terms of a construction challenge, but also saw its aesthetics and its spirit harking back to some of the great bridge-building feats of distant ancestors. Now, talking of ancient feats of engineering, we also have a story about the Great Wall and its construction at its far western end at Jiayuguan. Workers were faced with the challenge of moving massive blocks of stone from a quarry to the building site. Listen on to hear how they overcame the challenge. We have stories about the power of music during wartime, the 19-year bitter exile of a Han Dynasty official, and a traditional story about the virtues of self-control. All of that, and also a story about the Dragon Boat Festival. So join us, expand your vocabulary, rediscover inspiring Chinese stories, and learn how to share them with foreign friends and with the whole world. 在第三季中，我们有现代工程领域的伟大成就——钢铸澳大桥的故事。这个故事讲述了总工程师不仅将他的项目看成一个建筑挑战，还通过回顾古代伟大建筑成就，将工程上升到审美和精神层面的高度。而谈到古代建筑成就，我们还有一个发生在长城最西端嘉峪关的故事。在长城建设时期，工人们面临一个巨大的挑战，那就是如何将巨大的石块从采石场运到施工现场。通过这个故事，我们可以学习到他们是如何克服这个困难。除此之外，我们还有战争时期用音乐鼓舞人民的故事，还有关于汉代官员19年艰苦流放经历的故事，还有关于自律美德的故事，还有关于传统节日，就是端午节的故事。还在等什么？赶紧把词汇量扩充起来，把中国故事的知识储备丰富起来，然后向全世界讲述这些精彩的中国故事吧。这一节课中讲到的是来自黄河音乐灵感，是一个很重要的故事，有很多层面可以与外国人分享。首先，这篇故事很好地表现了中国人对黄河的亲近。另外，这个故事也进一步说明中国音乐与地理和自然亲密的关系。那么，对于想了解中国的外国人来说，最重要的事情之一就是了解中国的文化项目，不管是音乐、艺术还是文学，他们都能帮助外国人实现与中国人深入的对话。通过电视、现场演出等渠道，也能帮助外国人了解中国人民喜闻乐见的艺术形式。然而，了解作品背后的故事也很重要。想要了解某个音乐篇章为何能够打动中国人，外国人就需要了解这些音乐源于中国人脑中的哪些画面和思想。而这篇故事，就这样帮助人民理解黄河大合唱对于中国人意味着什么。它包含着不仅是孕育世代中国人的黄河之美，也会让想起近代中国人抗击外敌入侵的画面。这个故事为20世纪流行的爱国主义音乐打开了一扇传播的窗口。Okay, so let's now read the English version of this story from this book in English. Birth of a Resounding Melody. In early spring 1939, Huang Weiran led his resistance performance troupe across the Yellow River on their way to the Liuliangshan anti-Japanese base area. The majestic waters of the Yellow River rolled swiftly eastward. Amid the surging waves, the boatmen were doubled up as they strained at their oars, their chanting in unison stirring the hearts of their passengers. Wang Weiran received a mighty emotional impetus as he thought, the Yellow River flows unceasingly, just like the Chinese people surging heroically ahead. It is a symbol of their staunch and unyielding spirit, and the hard-working and brave sons and daughters of the Chinese nation, with their self-reliant and tireless spirit, are completely represented by these Yellow River boatmen. With such a picture before one's eyes, who wouldn't be moved? This picture sums up the spirit of these sons and daughters of China as they resist the foreign invaders. It is a robust, motive force enabling them to protect their homes and defend their country. Into the mind of the young poet came a flash of inspiration, which caused it to swell with emotion. An idea came into his head. In Yan'an, Wang Weiran bumped into his bosom friend Xian Xinhai. At this meeting, they opened their hearts to each other and freely and frankly shared their experiences and thoughts. As Wang Weiran explained his creative inspiration, there sprouted in the mind of Xian Xinhai the idea of composing a major choral piece of music. That was a critical time of war for the Chinese people when they were trapped in inescapable danger. The anti-Japanese heroes were engaged in bloody frontline battles, their fresh blood and hot tears sprinkling the wounded earth. In the rear areas, the young artists shared their patriotic sentiments and poured their heart's blood into the composition of musical works extolling the Yellow River spirit and the Chinese people and their splendid sons and daughters. Wang Weiran, filled with enthusiasm, straightaway dashed off the theme song for the Yellow River chorus. From beneath his writing brush appeared an anthem to the Yellow River, praise for its boatmen, bone-deep hatred for the foreign invaders of China, and profound sympathy for the country and its people who had had their fill of suffering. He described the stubborn resistance put up by ordinary people and their heroes against the foreign invaders. He put forth the slogan, "Roar out, Yellow River! Come, our people! Come and defend our Chinese land!" When he had heard Wang Weiran declaim his composition, Xian Xinhai was deeply moved, and at that moment a fierce blaze of patriotism was ignited in his heart. It was the words of the song that had had this infectious power, a power that seemed to set his very soul on fire. "I must write a musical score for those words," he said, leaping to his feet, his eyes shining. The two old friends looked at each other, and a kind of fierce emotion sparked between them. The conditions of life in Yan'an in those days were unbearably hard, but Xian Xinhai buckled down to his composition work, even forgetting to eat and sleep. After 6 days of hard work, he completed the musical score for the magnificent Yellow River chorus. As soon as it was published, the song caused a sensation. It gave a great boost to the spirits of the sons and daughters of China and further emboldened them to defend their homeland and resist the enemy without fearing to sacrifice themselves. Even today, the song still has the great power to arouse a fierce sense of patriotism in our hearts. The moral of this story. The Yellow River Chorus was born against the tragic background of the resistance to the Japanese invaders. Through its force in lauding the Yellow River and the spirit of the people, it presents the determination and unyielding faith of the generation which defended their homes and their country. This is the spirit we today should inherit. Okay, so now we're going to look at a particular paragraph to practice some of our recitation skills. 那么好的，我们现在就 不讲故事，我们现在又要练一练朗诵的技巧。然后为了练习这些朗诵技巧，我们要注意到某一个段落。然后我们现在要注意到的段落就是这一段，来听听吧。When he had heard Wang Weiran declaim his composition, Xian Xinghai was deeply moved, and at that moment a fierce blaze of patriotism was ignited in his heart. It was the words of the song that had had this infectious power, a power that seemed to set his very soul on fire. I must write a musical score for those words, he said, leaping to his feet, his eyes shining. The two old friends looked at each other, and a kind of fierce emotion sparked between them. In this paragraph, we need to convey how the two men, the songwriter or librettist and composer, were united in a moment of enthusiasm. Excitement, fervent feelings should all be conveyed in our voice. 在这一段，我们要展示的是作曲家和作词家两个人是如何因为共同的热情走到一起。我们需要用声音展示这种热血沸腾的感觉。In the first sentence, we need to contrast the connotation of deeply moved with the later description of a fierce blaze of patriotism. We should also make sure we give particular emphasis to the three metaphorical words that compare his emotion to fire. Fierce blaze and fire. 在第一句话，我们需要对比表现 deeply moved 的内在语和 fierce blaze of patriotism 的描述。我们也需要准确地强调三个暗喻词汇，将他们的感情与火焰进行对比。这三个词汇就是 fierce, blaze 以及 fire. Later on in the sentence, leaping to his feet and eyes shining should get particular attention, especially the words leaping and the word shining. 之后要特别强调的 leaping to his feet 以及 eyes shining， 尤其是其中的单词 leaping 还有 shining。 好的，我们再来听一听整个段落。 When he had heard Wang Weiran declaim his composition, Xian Xinghai was deeply moved. At that moment, a fierce blaze of patriotism was ignited in his heart. It was the words of the song that had had this infectious power, a power that seemed to set his very soul on fire. I must write a musical score for those words, he said, leaping to his feet, his eyes shining. The two old friends looked at each other, and a kind of fierce emotion sparked between them. 好的，那么今天的课就讲到这里了。That's it for today's class. See you next time. Bye bye.